Thanks. Before I get to my questions, if you'd be kind enough to entertain a unanimous consent request to put certain documents into the record. Okay. I will not put this beast into the record, to spare everybody that, but I will be circulating it to your offices. I would like to put into the record the cover article from the Economist magazine from this April, warning of the next housing disaster from that climate risk to insurance to
without
mortgages,
objection.
Property values cascade. And we put a lot of work into this when I was chair of the Budget Committee, and I'd also like to put in the report summarizing the evidence we adduced in the Budget Committee on the same insurance crisis.
Without objection.
I have also a letter here from CREW, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, regarding the Zeldin nomination.
Without objection.
And finally, I have a letter dated January 15, 2025, submitted by the Climate Action Campaign and signed by over 70 environmental organizations concerning the nomination.
Without objection.
Great. Thank
So
you
ordered,
very much,
yes.
Chairman. Mr. Zeldin, welcome. As we discussed when we met, I said I was going to ask you some really basic, no-tricks questions about climate change. So let me just start with those. First, as a matter of law, is carbon dioxide a pollutant?
Thank you, Senator, and I enjoyed our meeting with your team as well, and I look forward to working with all of you. As far as carbon dioxide emitted from you during that question, I would say no. As far as carbon dioxide that is emitted in larger masses that we hear concern about from scientists as well as from Congress, that's something that certainly needs to be focused on for the EPA.
And as a matter of law, it is a designated pollutant, correct?
Senator, while carbon dioxide is not named as one of the 6 in the Clean Air Act, the EPA has been treating it as such.
Yeah, because of a Supreme Court decision that said so, correct?
Correct, yes, Senator.
What effect, briefly and in layman terms, I know you're not a scientific expert, what effect are carbon dioxide emissions from fossil fuel combustion having in the atmosphere?
Senator, while I am someone who believes strongly that we should work with the scientists, leaving the science to the scientists, the policy to the policymakers, and that we all work together. I don't sit before you as a scientist. Fortunately, at EPA, we do have many talented scientists who provide that research. They have that talent to be able to tell us exactly what the metrics are of their research.
Just generally, and in layman's terms, what effects do these carbon dioxide emissions have when they enter the atmosphere?
Trapping heat, Senator.
And what effect, again, briefly and in layman's terms, does methane leakage from fossil fuel production and transport have in the atmosphere?
Same.
Heat trapping also. And what effect, I'm from the ocean state, so I've got to ask this one, what effect are carbon dioxide emissions from fossil fuel combustion having in the oceans?
Well, the emissions of greenhouse gases trap heat, Senator. As far as your concern that you expressed at the onset of your testimony as you showed that map of Rhode Island, and as you suggested, and as I mentioned, as I represented the district on the east end of Long Island, rising sea levels are concerns where I'm from as well. And it's one of the reasons why the federal government, through the Army Corps, had to invest in a Army Corps of Engineer project with the revetment of Montauk Lighthouse, with fear that if we did not do that, that Montauk Lighthouse, and due to erosion, would be collapsing into the ocean.
Is it correct that the trapped heat from carbon dioxide emissions and methane in the atmosphere is heating up the oceans? In fact, 90% of the heat goes into the oceans, and that is what is producing the sea level rise you just discussed.
That is what the scientists tell me, Senator.
Yep. And are the oceans also absorbing about 30% of the carbon dioxide itself, and therefore chemically turning more acid in measurable and clear ways?
Senator, as far as any specific numbers, I have to defer to the research of the scientists.
But generally that is happening.
Yes,
there
sir.
is a link between the fossil fuel emissions and the acidification of the oceans.
Yes, Senator, I do understand that there's litigation here that, to a certain extent, I'm not going to be able to comment on as EPA administrator, but to the general question, yes, Senator.
Yeah. Have we hit the 1.5 degree risk threshold, and why is that important?
Senator, again, as far as being able, throughout today's hearing, to be able to personally be citing and confirming specific numbers, that is something where I have to defer to the talented scientists to be able to provide that advice on an ongoing basis, whether or not we're hitting numbers at any given time.
If you are confirmed, what are the key either climate or oceans tipping points that would concern you?
As far as the tipping point, well, Senator, I think that as you put up a map of your district, I could, and your state, I could put up a map of mine, and we could do this across the entire country. As long as that concern exists, where there is in fact rising sea levels, and I hear it from both sides of the aisle. Senator Collins spoke about it in the context of Maine.
One last question before my time runs out. I'm sorry. Are we now on a pathway to climate safety, or do we need to do more to reduce carbon emissions in order to get on that pathway?
Senator, United States emissions have been going down over the course of the last couple of decades. Unfortunately, there are other countries where it is not going in the same direction. And I would say that we will have never done enough to ensure that our water and our air is clean, safe, and healthy. Whatever we do every day to achieve this objective, we need to wake up the next day looking for ways to do more.
Thank you.